We have been in a fog, and as we've emerged, we see that the world's been pushed to the brink, and so have you. I'm Dr. David Owers, I'm the Doc of DeFi, and I invite you on a double major education, one of health, one of wealth, and how the two interact. So I'm following up now on the idea of knowing your crypto trading personality type and how that might help in how you enter the space. Because a lot of people I find are either all in or they're completely all out, and I'd like to help as many people get in as possible. So I came to this room in the house because I've got these little items just behind me. So this is a hat that's part of a dress uniform of the Royal British Navy, and it belonged to my father. He's no longer with me, but I'm trying to figure out what I would have said to him had I had a conversation about the blockchain and the metaverse and the crypto space. So it's maybe knowing a bit about him. So he joined the Navy when he was 14 years old. He lied about his age and got in, and he didn't really have a very stable family life, so he decided to make the Navy his family. And from the bottom, most lowest ranks, he worked his way up to lieutenant colonel. The hat you see here is not the hat of an officer, because it would have also the gold on the brim of the hat, but it was one of his hats anyhow. And I later found out that he was an electrical engineer in the Royal Navy towards the end of the Second World War. But much later, we found out that actually he was an intelligence officer. We found this out when he was 82 years old. For the first time, he hadn't told anybody what he really was doing. That's how dedicated he was to service of the Queen, and he felt as though, he knew full well what he knew was no longer classified, but that's the way he handled it. So there was a bit of a unknown streak, a wild streak in him. However, to the rest of the world, he was very prim, very proper, very planned, and very conservative. So for me, I would probably introduce my father, his name was Clifford, to the crypto space, and simply by using the classic coin, Bitcoin. I would explain to him that this was the original paper and project, and it has been stable since 2009 as a presence in the crypto space, though its asset value has fluctuated, of course. I would explain to him that this solved the General Byzantine's dilemma. He was quite a history buff, and another military officer might be something that I could use to persuade him that this space had a little bit for everybody. So General Byzantine did not know how to secure a transaction between two parties and have that transaction be in integrity without having an onlooker or a third party or an intermediary. And I would explain to my dad that this paper that was written in 2009 that exposed the ideas behind the blockchain for the first time was something that solved that problem. Was you were able to have a peer-to-peer transaction without the need for an intermediary. And if this didn't pique his interest, then I would say that despite the ups and downs, the overall of this coin is that it has gone up 30,000 times from 2019, even though today it is quite a bit down. It's at half or less than half of its all-time high. I would also explain to him that the integrity of this coin has been pristine since 2009. There hasn't been anybody that's compromised the project. There hasn't been any hacking of it. No one has lost anything that they invested, short of the fact that they themselves could have misplaced a key to a wallet. And that's something that we've covered in the past, and I would have explained that to him as well. So but the only way you would lose Bitcoin is if it's all on you, if you lost it yourself by not knowing how to access your asset or remember where you put it. Because if you remember back in 2009, 2010, it was very, very difficult to get. There weren't these big exchanges like we have now. And so it was a bit dubious as to where it was located. And a fair amount of Bitcoin that people owned back in the 2010, 2011, has actually been lost forever because of this. But it's not because Bitcoin lost in its integrity at all. And I would just say that he could just have Bitcoin and hold it because in the long run, it just continues to increase. But to satisfy his wild streak, I would then introduce him to the world of trading, and he can trade with his Bitcoin or a portion of it if he wanted to, or we can get into stablecoin and assets that have a different functionality, such as Ethereum and the lesser coins. So I would appeal to his wild streak, I would appeal to his conservative nature, and I would show him just how he could relate to a lot of this by knowing who he was. So on the other hand, there is my mom, who also is not with us. I brought something of hers, well, not quite of hers, but these little figurines. She had a lot of these. This particular kind that has the green and the black. And although that's not really hers, I did find that in a secondhand store, and I wanted to have that here just to remind me of her. So she was quite a different person than my dad. She was a very full of life French-Canadian girl who loved to laugh, loved to dance, who loved just loving, actually, and providing. And that was something quite evident. And she didn't have an education because she grew up in the Depression, and she was one of a family of 9, and she had to work to keep the family going. And each of the 9 children had their thing that they had to do to keep the household going and to keep some income flowing. And so she had to stop school at a very young age. Doesn't mean that she didn't have any street smarts, but did not have a lot of formal book smarts. But she knew what she wanted. And so to her, I would say that, first of all, my dad was getting into it because she trusted him. And secondly, that there is a way that you can participate in this space with someone who's managing things for you, or with someone who's offering a product that casts an umbrella across the crypto space and allows you to partake in a mixed bag of assets, let's say. And to satisfy her love of life, her gusto, and everything else, I would probably talk to her about something called liquidity pools, where she can just live a bit more vicariously through the action of the market. And because in liquidity pools, you're actually giving, you're actually providing liquidity. And she loved to give, and she loved to help other people. And a liquidity pool kind of does that. It allows liquidity in a certain coin or a number of coins. And so the coins you put into the pool, you still own them, but you give everybody the chance to sort of leverage your coin when they want to make trades. You don't have to make any trades at all. So I think that she would love that aspect of the crypto space, this giving aspect, and also would give her a bit of a return. So I think she loves to see competitive things, or a race, or things increase. So, seeing her returns increase, that would be something as well. So that's what I would say, knowing those two personalities and how they might really appreciate entering into the crypto space.